Well, hello and welcome to another episode of Contra Mundum. Hello, CJ. How are you? Good to see you. You're back from the wine bar.
Yes, you did it without me. I told you I couldn't do it, and you found a replacement,
Yeah,
like CJ Light.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Matthew almost was. He almost Wally pipped you. I know you're not a sports ball guy, but that's a sports reference. So I'll explain it later, maybe. But yeah, I had a good week this week too. Thanks for asking. I was I was in.
I actually don't care
Yeah, I
much.
know. I know. No, I was in the Austin area with Joel Webbin and AD Robles all week recording an awesome podcast project. And that's going to come out, I think, probably January is what Joel said. So I'll be promoting that. It's all about my book too. So of course I have to promote it, right? So it was a lot of fun. Those guys are awesome, and it was fun to hang out with them all week. But I'm very glad to be back home. And also here with you, CJ. So this is great to get to talk, to do our first live episode together. This is
Late at
yeah,
night.
yeah. Well, it's late for me. For you, what is it, like 7 o'clock?
Dude, it's an hour past my bedtime, man. It's
Of course, yeah, of course. Well, yeah. This week, a lot happened, even though nothing ever happens. A lot has taken place this week that we haven't had to chance to catch up about the current events that have been unfolding. The last episode we did was on Israel and Palestine,
now things are
and
getting heated. Yeah.
things are getting heated, but it's kind of been in a stasis for the last two weeks since we talked.
Yeah, there's a lot of hot rhetoric though.
Oh yeah,
I mean, now we're talking, I guess there's been some, things happening in Syria with the United States military, and
hmm
Iran's getting hot and spicy, and Russia and China. It's like,
yeah.
I don't know. It's nothing ever happens, but could it happen? I don't
It
know.
sure seems like things are
Yeah,
about to happen. And I mean, did you see the rally in Turkey with Erdogan? Did you see
I
any of
did.
that?
I did. Yeah.
No. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's interesting because that's like a NATO country, right?
Mhm.
And what happens there? I mean, I don't think Turkey or Iran are going to invade Israel. I highly doubt something like that will take place, but
Right.
who knows, right? Who knows what's going to happen?
Well, I think it's more likely that there'll be like some sort of false flag, and Israel will beg America for Iran involvement, and so
Yeah.
we'll go to Iran before Iran would go to Israel.
Oh yeah, yeah, I think so. And most of these things occur via proxies too,
Of
right?
course.
So Iran would support Hezbollah in Lebanon.
Mhm.
I don't think they would like send their own like the Revolutionary Guard or something into Israel or anything like that. But who knows? I mean, who knows how things are going to go down? But it sure seems like things are going down. So. But there's other stuff that has happened besides geopolitics and things like that.
Mhm.
We had today. What was your favorite Mike Pence presidential campaign moment?
I mean, obviously the interview with Tucker.
Yes, me
I
too.
mean, yeah, well, why not? Is yeah. I mean, it's classic Pence, and like when he announced that he's no longer running, I was like, wait, who is this again?
Yeah. Oh yeah, you're here.
Forgot about you.
Yeah,
I
it's like
think
it's like the Arrested Development, and it's like her.
Yeah, I think they were relying. They wanted Pence to basically challenge Trump face to face as some sort of
Mhm.
like standoff to call him to account for what he did. And Trump's like, "Yeah, I'm not going to show up." And so
Yeah.
and then who wants Pence without the drama of Trump?
Yeah.
So even his backers, weren't gonna. They knew it was a losing strategy. So
Yeah, and you
he's
saw some of
done.
like the campaign photos of him in Iowa, right? And there was a headline where like Mike Pence struggles to get 15 people to show up at a pizza ranch.
Yeah, yeah. He's like in the pharmacy, and
Yeah,
there's like four guys, and then like four security guards, and that's it.
yeah. And they're not even looking at him. They're just like, "I'm here to pick up my pills, man. Like,
I know.
I don't even want to be here." Yeah, let's
Awesome.
play. Speaking of the Tucker, the Tucker video, let's play it. I have it here queued up. Here we go.
You are
Thank you.
distressed that the Ukrainians don't have enough American tanks. Every city in the United States has become much worse over the past 3 years.
Yeah.
Drive around. There's not one city that's gotten better in the United States. And it's visible. Our economy has degraded. The suicide rate has jumped. Public filth and disorder and crime have exponentially increased. And yet, your concern is that the Ukrainians, a country most people can't find on a map, who've received tens of billions of U.S. tax dollars, don't have enough tanks. I think it's a fair question to ask, like, where's the concern for the United States in that?
Well, it's not my concern. Tucker, I've heard that routine from you before, but that's not my concern.
Oh, classic.
Yeah, Tucker for president. Yeah, let's go. Oh man, it's hilarious. I mean, that his campaign was dead there. I mean, it was already, it never was going to be anything.
Yeah.
But like right there, he drove a stake right through the heart of Mike Pence.
He did.
Oh, and yeah, I mean, it was clear. Did you see DeSantis's tweet about Mike Pence? You know, he just tweeted it a little bit ago.
No, what did he say?
He said something like, "Oh, Mike Pence is a good man, and we wish him well," and things like that. And I'm thinking, like, what are you doing? Why are you saying that? He's a traitor, and all the people that you're trying to get to vote for you despise him.
Yeah,
you should attack him more than you attack Trump.
Those are like signals that he's giving to the donor class.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
retarded.
Yeah, it is.
I don't know what to say. Like, DeSantis had so much potential. He was going to be like, you know, Trump's protege, and he's completely throwing it all away. It's really sad.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Here's a good comment. Can you see the comments as they're rolling in?
I can.
This is a good one to talk about. Like right here. Why talk about 0.1% of, which is 100 billion, as a source of U.S. problems? Right. Why? So Tucker is saying we're giving tens of billions of dollars to Ukraine, and here are all these other problems that we need to address in our country. So what do you respond to that comment, CJ?
I don't really understand what it's saying. Is he saying like
Or I'll put it back.
Like, well, what is he asking? Why is Tucker talking about these problems as if the Ukraine had anything to do with it, or?
Oh, here's a follow up. So U.S. is selling gas to Germany, keeping Europe from alliance with Russia, China, getting Germany industry moving to us, not to mention the moral question. Well, yeah, I mean, I think that the question there, it's not so much like this is this massive chunk of money. I mean, it is a huge chunk of money, right? Tens of billions of dollars. And of course, it's not just like pallets of cash, right? But things like that, even that are fungible. And so it's more the question of priorities, right? Why do you care so much about Ukraine, right? This is the point that Tucker is making. Why do you care so much about Ukraine when our country is a mess, right? And this is not helping American people.
Well, it's
at all.
Yeah, it's also symbolic. I mean, it's representative of the way that the United States runs its regime.
Yeah,
this is the way it does all across the board through hundreds of departments and agencies and all of its various projects. This is how it does everything. The United States and its people, its heritage people are basically only there to provide, the gunpowder for the
they're tax cows for the regime. Yeah. And the point is not, we want to keep Russia from or Germany and Western Europe from buying Russian gas and oil and things like that. Obviously, that's like an economic priority of the regime. They want to cut Russia off from Europe and vice versa. But it's more about bringing Russia under the thumb of the American regime, right? That's the point of all of this. It's not it's not even economic or geopolitical, like having having this balance of power and things like that. It's like, no, they want to crush Russia and do what they did to the rest of Eastern Europe after the fall of the Soviet Union and strip it down for parts, and not have this country, which is a thorn in their side. They want to have gay pride parades in Moscow. Right. That's what they want. Right. They want to install our values in Russia. and in places like Hungary too. And Tucker has talked about that before. He gave that speech to a large, like I think it was like CPAC or something like that in Hungary, and said like, the U.S. ambassador is over here, chastising your country over you being anti-LGBT plus, or whatever. And he's like, that's atrocious. Who goes to somebody's country and tells them how they're supposed to live? That's insane. I mean, that's not how you conduct diplomacy. So yeah, I mean, the whole Ukraine thing, it like you said, it's symbolic, right? It's symbolic of the regime's priorities. They don't care about our people at all. And the statement by Pence, even though people are like, well, it was kind of out of context. He's not saying that he doesn't care about those things, but it doesn't actually matter, because the truth is he really doesn't care.
Well, that's what's so great about it. I don't think he meant it like that. I think he was thinking of answering some, a different type of question. Like he was trying to say that Ukraine was not his problem or something like that. But
yeah, or he's saying that it's not my concern that they don't have enough tanks or something like that.
But it's perfect. It's perfect because it's reflective of the neocon approach to American and global politics. It's perfect. It's like one of those beautiful symbolic moments in American political discourse where he literally there hasn't been a political candidate that's spoken so truthfully, and it was done accidentally,
by accident. Yeah.
So it's hilarious, and it's beautiful, and it's truthful. And I think people should always remember that clip, because I think it's one of the most honest clips in the last several decades.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of symbolism, there was also another event this week. The Charlottesville statue of Robert E. Lee was melted down, and they made sure to like cut his face off and take lots of pictures and video of that face being melted down, like the Terminator in the end of Terminator 2. Sorry if no one else has seen that and I'm spoiling it.
I haven't seen it.
Well, read the book. Apparently, read the novelization, CJ. But yeah, I mean that's obviously a massive symbol of what the regime wants to do to all of us, and and it is doing to our country's history and heritage. I mean, talk a little about Robert E. Lee and the controversy right now. I mean, you'll see, I don't know if you saw like Samuel Perry, that creature, his tweet about Robert E. Lee is like the patron saint of mediocre white men. Right? Did you see that one?
No, I didn't see that one.
Yeah, but that's standard practice for these people.
It's funny because I was talking to my father before this happened, but I was talking to my father-in-law about Civil War stuff, and he grew up. He was born in the early '60s, and so he came of age in like the '70s. And so when they learned about the Civil War, that was like the height of like post-war American propaganda, like the propositional nation. Propositional nation was just coming into being, and that's really the first several decades where people got this idea that Lincoln is a messiah, and just this progressive nature of America till it kind of reached its peak in World War II. So even in the 70s, he grew up learning in California that Robert E. Lee was a very noble man that we should all look to as someone who was honorable, who had character, who carried himself well, who defended his own people to the death. Even he was taught that even if the North was morally right or whatever, we should still emulate people like Jackson and Robert E. Lee as people who could speak to all Americans, regardless of where they are and what side they are on that specific battle, but also other intellectual crises. So you kind of see this even at the height of American post-war propaganda. Robert E. Lee was someone to emulate. Now you come forward, 40 years, 50 years, and even like the conservatives, the Republicans, they're all the ones that are cheering, the tearing down of Robert E. Lee.
Yeah, you remember how this all started, right? This started with Nikki Haley.
Right?
Yeah,
right. Yeah.
So Nikki Haley taking down the Confederate flag from the South Carolina Capitol.
Yeah. So this just shows that it's part of the Long March. It's part of the transformation of American culture. It's a culture war issue. It's not a political war issue. It's not just a democratic electoral news headline type, issue. It's deep. It's trying to drive a dagger into the hegemonic aspects of who we are as a people. It's meant to humiliate us. It's meant to mock our past. It's meant to demoralize. It's meant to remind us that we live in an occupied nation, that people who hate us are in control, and they know that it draws our ire. They know that it frustrates us, and they're mocking us. They want us to be agitated, and they want us to respond to them. This is kind of the point of those things. It's the angry white male. That's what they like to call us, and they're trying their best to inflame something within us. So I think Robert E. Lee is a good man. And I don't take anybody seriously who treats politics like it has to be this, like, you took X side on, this war 200 years ago, therefore you're a terrible person. That I don't take that seriously, but I've seen a lot of that type of response from these neoconservative, classical liberal Ayn Rand type people too. So I have someone in particular in mind on that one.
I'm sure I know who you're talking about, but it's interesting too, like the relitigation of the Civil War that happens constantly, right? And it's fun. I mean, maybe it's not funny. It's not funny. That the people who are like, oh yeah, Sherman, drinking Confederate tears and blah blah blah, and it's like the people that are like the most antagonistic, toward Robert E. Lee and Southern heritage and those things, are people that they were not here in the United States. Like their ancestors were not living in the United States. Their grandparents, right? Their great grandparents. These are people who are maybe second or third generation at best, if not first generation Americans. We talked to, a couple of weeks ago, the Michael Anton article where he said, okay, after 1965, we've had something like 100 million immigrants, right, come to this country. Many of them most of them from the third world. And right, when I see it, it's like those people are the ones that are like, yeah, Robert E. Lee was a traitor, and it's like, what?
Yeah,
you weren't even here, And I say this myself. I said this many times before, but all of my ancestors at that time, they immigrated here after the war, right, in the 1870s during the Franco-Prussian War. That's when they left Germany, right, and so they weren't here, right? They weren't here, so I don't think I should have. My name is not on the Civil War registry database of soldiers who fought in the war. Every single person could look that up, and it's always kind of funny when people like look up somebody's last name. It's like 0 entries, right? When they have these strong opinions about it, and our country as a distinct people recovered after the war, right? There, I mean, regardless of your opinion on it, the two sides there was a peace and a reconciliation, particularly after Reconstruction was ended.
Yeah.
And you see these pictures of Confederate and Union veterans shaking hands, 40 or 50 years after the war. And you have like the famous clip of Dwight Eisenhower saying, well, I've got 4 portraits in the Oval Office, and one of them is of Robert E. Lee, and I'm not going to listen to anybody criticize him. And it's like, and this is like, the architect of American victory in Europe, right? In World War II, right? The entire mythos of our modern age is built on World War II. And this is the architect of it.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I mean, Robert E. Lee was always someone, like even up into the 90s. I mean, like late 90s. I mean, Jimmy Carter was flying the Confederate flag during his presidency in the 70s.
Bill Clinton and Al Gore had like campaign buttons that they passed out with the Confederate flag on it.
Right.
It's like, because I'm from Arkansas, so vote for me. Like, I mean, come on.
It's part of the American history. It's part of who we are. I mean, we identify. This is what I identify with both sides, in that sort of sense.
I do too. Yeah,
my demeanor and disposition is much more Southern, but it's all my history, and they're all my people. And at this point, we're facing such ridiculous enemies that are so monstrous and serious that the idea that we have to relitigate it I think it's kind of silly.
Well, I think what it shows is people that are like, no, this is a traitor to the country. We don't have monuments to traitors, right? Those are people who haven't assimilated to actual American culture and heritage.
Yeah, those are the people that repeat MLK Jr. quotes.
Yeah. Exactly. Like I mean, really, that like like the true actual American heritage is there were honorable men on both sides of the conflict, and we should honor these honorable men.
Good people on both sides. I agree.
Well, really though, like that is what from like 1870 until maybe 1960. That's what everybody thought. Right?
Yeah,
they weren't thinking, oh, those Confederates were traitors. They're terrible people. They're so evil and racist and bad. Right? No, people didn't think that. Right? Like actual bona fide American culture thought, no, Robert E. Lee was an honorable man. Stonewall Jackson was an honorable man. There many of the leaders. That's why we named until recently all of our army bases, right? Were named after these guys. And it's a humiliation ritual, right? Not just of like Southerners and people that are proud of their Southern heritage, but a humiliation ritual for all Americans. Right. That your history is evil and bad. And so seeing Robert E. Lee, it's not meant to just humiliate, people in like the sticks in Virginia. Right. It's meant to humiliate everybody that loves our country.
Exactly.
That's the point of it. That's what they're trying to do. And so you see things like that, and you have to sort of be angry, right? And not humiliated, right? You can't let them win and feel humiliated that you're in this occupied country. It's something rather you should, I think, take pride in, right? That we have something worth them wanting to destroy, right? We still have it. And this is them. I think it's in one sense, it's a sign of their own impotence, right? They can't capture our hearts, right? We still love our country, we love America, and we love our history and our heritage. And they can melt down statues, right? They can take down monuments, but they can't take what we love from inside of us.
Yeah.
Right. So I think in one sense it is. If you look at it that way, it's a victory, right? It's a victory that they have to go to these absurd humiliation ritual lengths to try to humiliate us. And
it's also interesting. It's also interesting because I think our generation, younger, you and I think are more fired up about this kind of stuff than our parents are.
Oh, absolutely.
So I think that's a big deal too. We care more about the statue. We care more about the symbolism. We care more about the people that are being torn down than even our parents do. I mean, my dad just thinks it's silly and stupid, right?
What's the big deal?
Yeah. He just, that's stupid. Like, why are they doing that? They're just they're just a bunch of dumb, leftists or whatever. I think it's very serious, but the fact that I think it's serious and it's worth defending. And when we win, we're going to rebuild Robert E. Lee statues, which is a mentality that my parents don't have. But we're going to do that because
it's going to be twice the size.
It's going to be twice the size. Yes, exactly.
Yes, yeah. Someone's commenting on your wall. You were like, no, I can't show my wall that I haven't finished.
I know.
You should let them know what's on your wall.
I have when I moved in here, this little bunker where I'm at under my house was a recording studio for the previous person. So
and now it's a recording studio again.
And now it's a recording. Yeah, but I ripped off all the fancy stuff. So yeah,
you weren't thinking ahead.
I know. It's ugly. It's ugly. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll make it beautiful again, just like our country.
I took a knife and I started scraping at it, and I was like, this is gonna take me years. So I'm just
put some wallpaper up over it. You'll be fine.
It's like bumpy though. It's like you can't put anything over it.
Oh, all right. Well,
yeah.
We'll save the interior decoration conversation for later. Everyone's enthralled by it, I'm sure.
It's also funny because I'm like looking at my own books behind me, and I've got like a Mussolini biography and an Oswald Mosley biography.
Yeah, Nietzsche. And
then I have like it's
and then your kids' homeschool
diverse
stuff up there.
Oh yeah. So.
Oh yeah, it's great. Yeah, mine's all blurred out so nobody can see what I have on my bookshelf. I'm like 2 steps ahead of you. One of the other things that took place since we recorded, I think it was last week. I mean, time is a blur, and it's hard to keep track of all the things that are going on. But your erstwhile opponent on Twitter, Jenna Ellis, took a plea deal.
Yeah,
either this week or last week.
last week, I think.
Yeah, it was last week. And her plea deal, I mean, obviously, like the whole case in Georgia, like they charged all of these people for election interference, whatever that means. And they charge all of them in order to do this, in order for them to plea and cooperate with the prosecution, hand over, evidence maybe that they don't have, and to not cooperate with Trump's team. That's the big one, is be able to cut off contact and not talk about it in the media. And so you want to play her video of of her plea?
Let's play it. Yeah, let's play it.
Okay. All right. I'll pull it up here. It's really sad.
It is sad.
Who is also a Christian, I take my responsibilities as a lawyer very seriously, and I endeavor to be a person of sound moral and ethical character in all of my dealings. In the wake of the 2020 presidential election, I believed that challenging the results on behalf of President Trump should be pursued in a just and legal way. I endeavored to represent my client to the best of my ability. I relied on others, including lawyers with many more years of experience than I, to provide me with true and reliable information, especially since my role involved speaking to the media and to legislators in various states. What I did not do, but should have done, Your Honor, was to make sure that the facts the other lawyers alleged to be true were in fact true. In the frenetic pace of attempting to raise challenges to the election in several states, including Georgia, I failed to do my due diligence. I believe in and I value election integrity. If I knew then what I know now, I would have declined to represent Donald Trump in these post-election challenges. I look back on this whole experience with deep remorse. For those failures of mine, Your Honor, I have taken responsibility already before the Colorado bar who censured me, and I now take responsibility before this court and apologize to the people of Georgia. Thank you.
Yeah, so that's another, example of, like, I mean, it's like a literal struggle session that she's forced to undergo. And on top of that, like, yeah, she's censured by the bar. John Eastman is undergoing a bar trial right now in the state of California, and similar things are going on. And they want, I mean, you see that, and it's like the crime is representing someone who is an enemy of the state, right? That's what her crime is. And she's like, oh, I said things that were not true, or I repeated things that were not true, or whatever. Well, one, that's on you. Like, you're the attorney. You need to be able to verify things. But
I think
were they not true?
I think a lot of what she did was true.
Yeah, I think so
really,
too.
I mean, I'm pretty mentally strong, but it's really hard not to be gaslit. It's really right now on this issue. But I know what I saw. I saw it live. We saw it play out on social media, all over the internet. We witnessed one of the greatest election fortifications in history.
Yeah, we did.
And as someone who witnessed that, it's a really good reminder of what I was saying in that little confrontation I had with her on Twitter, that politics is more fundamental and foundational than the law. Like, at the end of the day, the purpose of the law is to support the regime. And if you have a regime that's intent on keeping itself in power, then it's going to use the law to its own advantage. In the way that she talks about, her respect for the law and all those things, it's a reminder that you need to realize that the law is a sword. The law is a weapon that the regime uses for its own purposes. And so you need to be very careful about looking at the law without a political lens on, especially in our hyper politicized world. You need to realize that politics is more foundational. And if you're going to fight for what you believe in, you have to engage in politics. And contrary to what Jenna said to me, calling for a political struggle is not a call for civil war. It's a call for opposition to the regime on behalf of the country we love. And so we need to engage in politics, and politics needs to be the medium through which we fight against this regime, because the law is going to work in their favor. We have to think politically, not legally.
Yeah. And that was the point. And I mean, the irony in the stuff she was saying, like the one tweet that she really went after of yours was America's a totalitarian country, right? That's what you're saying. Like the regime that rules over us is totalitarian.
I'm witnessing her, like she's going through a show trial. You know?
I know. Like this is like literally Stalinist.
Yeah.
And she's undergoing this, right?
Mhm.
And how can you not see it? Like, how can she not see this?
I mean, I think we look at the people who reported on the realities in the Soviet Union during one of the worst times in Russian history.
Yeah.
And we have to realize, looking back on it, it's easier to see things clearly. But I bet all the people around those who were speaking truth during that time, all those people were like, what are you talking about? We are free. Like, you know what I mean? That's just, it's just hard for people to realize that it's hard for them to get out of the system and look back on it objectively. And it takes people who are willing to do that. Like for us to say things like, we already live in a totalitarian system. We already have lost our freedoms. It's not, we don't live in a state where we need to conserve and preserve our freedoms. We need to regain what has already been stolen from us.
They're gone already.
They're gone.
If you can't, if you can't contest an election that's rife with fortification, then you don't have the freedom you think you have, right? If anyone who represents a president who's contesting an election gets hauled before judges and threatened with prison, like, and I see like her, like, if you think about it from her perspective, I guess she's a young mother and has children and doesn't want to go to prison and be away from her children, which is understandable. I mean,
and which they were obviously threatening her with, because that's a pressure point, and that's how totalitarian regimes work. Yeah,
I mean, part of it is folly on Trump's on Trump for like employing a mother. I mean, maybe doesn't have the foresight to see that this is going to go down exactly this way.
Well, this is also one of the worst things that Trump has done after this whole experience, is his refusal to stand by those who stood by him.
Yeah.
You and I, we have our preferences for Trump, but we're not above criticizing him either. And this is one area that I think he definitely had always been lacking on, is standing by those people he expects to be loyal to him.
Yeah, this is a good comment. Yeah, that we have to say fortification. Yeah, we like to slip by the censors of the regime by using euphemisms that they fashion for themselves. And that's exactly, it's proof. Like we can't even like say what happened out loud without everything getting shut down. Right. You're not in a free country. Like, how could people not see this? Right. How can you see, oh yes, we have the Constitution and it's protecting our rights. Isn't that so wonderful? Well, no, you don't. You don't have anything like that at all. You have to use euphemisms to talk about what you saw happen right in front of you. Right. And like you said, the gaslighting is
insane. It's intense.
Intense. I mean, there's moments where you like, even I am like, well, did it really happen? Like I thought it did. And it's like, well, no, like I remember the water main breaking and the videos of I
watched
State Farm Arena being stuffed with ballots. I was up duffel bags of ballots.
I was up. I didn't go to sleep on election night, and I watched.
Me neither.
The curve, the infamous curve situation. I watched it live.
Me too.
So it's
and it's like, I'm not going to forget that. And tons of people didn't. Like, that's why the Epiphany mostly peaceful happening at the Capitol on the 6th of January occurred. Right. Even that we got to be careful talking about that. And like, it occurred because 1 million people saw that, or millions of people saw that, and 1 million people were angry enough to go there on a work day. Right. Yeah. And so it shows you that, what you are living in is not what you think it is. That's why when people like try to engage in discussion of like electoral politics for the 2024 election, like, well, we just need to get a guy who is going to win and will carry the moderates and blah, blah, blah. And like, and treating it like it's any ordinary thing from like 20 years ago, is so foolish. Right. Cause we don't see it that way. I don't look at it like basic electoral strategy and how to win different states and things like that. It's it is you have a totalitarian country running a sham of this political process of elections, and I want maximum disruption of the regime, right? That's what I want, and I mean, it looks like if they're getting all these people to roll on Trump and take plea bargains and things like that, like you have to think that they're going to convict him, you know. And when most of these are supposed to go to trial in like
February.
during the primary season.
Yeah. The
right?
timing is itself ridiculous and totalitarian.
Yeah.
But that's what I want. I want Trump to be elected from prison. That's
me
my
too.
dream.
No,
That
I
would
want
be
it.
the greatest outcome. Yeah.
And and not because like we're like, oh, he'll leave prison and save us and be the great man of history that fixes the country. No, that's not going to happen.
Because it's a delegitimacy accomplishment. You know, when that happens.
Yeah, like whatever occurred in 2020, delegitimized the regime massively for tens of millions of people, and whatever insanity is going to occur over the next 12 months.
I think it's going to make I think they've lost control though. I think Trump's even going to be even more popular. If he gets gets imprisoned, I think what's he at, like 65% for the Republican primary?
Yeah, I mean it varies, from like 55 to 65. Yeah. And so I mean he's massively popular, and his popularity has grown because of this, and I think they maybe thought that it would go down, like they could just do this. Like I think they don't recognize how much they are hated by regular people. Right. Regular people see this and think, no, they're obviously persecuting this guy. Did he commit any crime? Who cares what the charges are?
Who cares?
And none of that matters. Like it's obvious what they're doing. And yeah, it'll continue to be very popular, and it continues to delegitimize what's occurring, and this plays into the geopolitical situation going on as well, where does anyone want to go fight and die for these people?
Right.
No, nobody does. Right. Nobody does. Like they or even conduct warfare, right, in various places on their behalf. Like no one's going to support their wars. And I think that's part of why things are as dicey as they are, right? Why Israel can't totally count on the support of the United States.
That's crazy. That's a world historical occurrence right there. I mean,
well, and if you and I are sitting in Tehran right now and like and plotting, right, with the Ayatollah, like what are we going to do? And you're thinking about the United States, right? Because they know all the same stuff we know, right? We don't have any secret knowledge about what's going on, and they probably have more information than we do. But if you and I are sitting there in Tehran and trying to game plan this stuff, and you're thinking there's no possible way they could invade and occupy our country, period. They could not do it with their present forces in being and military capabilities and so forth. That it could not be done, right? So they know that. You could have cruise missile strikes and things like that. Certainly, limited scale warfare. It wouldn't, and that would be the thing to maybe make them not want to do anything, is because there still would be massive death and casualties in their cities and so forth. But the threat of invasion doesn't exist, and they know it. And so maybe they gamble, right? Maybe they say we're going to go to war, and maybe we bring Turkey in with us, right? I mean that's something that's at least conceivable, when in the past, like 20 years ago, it would be inconceivable. They wouldn't be able to do this, right? They would do what they did to Iraq to Iran, right? They had the capability of doing something like that, and so we've been weakened massively militarily, and they know it. And so I don't know if anything is going to occur, anything is going to happen. But and it seems like now in this scenario, and the things occurring right now, but it seems much more likely there will be something that will happen in the next 10 or 20 years, right?
Oh
As the
yeah,
United States continues to weaken.
for sure. I don't know, the rhetoric though is like
Yeah,
insane right now. Like the way
yeah,
they're talking. Like I mean, Israel,
yeah,
Netanyahu's talking like it's the end of Palestine forever. Like
yeah. I mean,
he's
he's
talking
referencing,
genocide.
yeah,
It's crazy.
he's referencing,
Like
1 Samuel 15
right,
and Saul being
right,
ordered to slaughter the Amalekites.
yeah.
And so, what does he mean there, right?
Yeah, I know. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
it's obvious what he means
Is he
there.
bluffing? Like are world leaders taking him seriously on that?
Yeah, this
Is he just appealing to American audiences? I don't know.
Yeah, this is a good comment. I don't know if you saw like Justin Amash. Am I pronouncing his name
Oh, I
right?
always say Amash.
Amash. His his relatives. Several of them were killed when that church was bombed by the Israelis.
Yeah.
And so people our age and younger know that there are actually a substantial number of Palestinian Christians.
Mhm.
In the older generations, they think they're all just Muslims that are evil and deserve to die. But there are a large number of Christians in Gaza, and
Ancient Christian sites and communities
yeah,
that have been
and
there for thousands of years.
they've been there the whole time, right?
Mhm.
And so yeah, these are people that definitely we should be praying for. Hopefully, if you have a good church, they'll pray for our brothers and sisters in Christ that are going to suffer as the invasion goes underway. So
Mhm.
please take time to do that. But yeah, I think it is like you said, the rhetoric has heated up. I think we talk about before. I can't remember what we have and haven't talked about in the last couple of weeks. But maybe you saw the Iranian foreign minister went to Riyadh to meet with the Saudis. Did you see
Mhm.
that?
I saw it. I don't know anything
Yeah.
about it. I
Which
didn't
I
read
mean,
it.
I don't know any details, or I mean, it's not like they issued a press release and said, "Here's what we talked about." But just the fact that he went there.
Mhm.
I mean, they haven't had relations. I think ever.
Yeah, no,
Um,
I think what's happening is Israel is isolating itself, and I think it's overstepped its bounds. And I don't think America is in a position to be able to call out other people's bluff or to bluff ourselves. We can't. We
yeah,
have no longer have the strength to bluff.
we could send 2 carrier groups into the Eastern Mediterranean and one into the Persian Gulf, but what does that mean? Other than
Right.
like potential Gulf of Tonkin incidents,
Mhm.
what does it mean? Obviously, I think the ones in the Mediterranean are for Lebanon. For them to know that, all right, if Hezbollah invades, we'll start bombing their columns of troops and things like that. But and what are they there in the Persian Gulf for? Probably bait for a hypersonic missile, right?
Mhm.
That really, I mean, and you see that too, that the off of Yemen, the Houthis sent drones, like Iranian drones, allegedly anyway, to attack American ships, and
That's the
so
other
it's like,
thing. It's really hard to know what's true and what's false right now.
yeah, I mean, and you see that
It's
too with like
crazy. Yeah.
the hospital bombing. We haven't talked about that, but like the
We
hospital
didn't talk
bombing
about that.
that maybe or maybe didn't, and it's like, no, it was a misfire
It
of a
was I'm
Hamas
pretty
rocket.
sure it was Israel.
I think it was an I mean,
Yeah.
now that over time, like there's
Yeah.
less fog of war and things like that, it's like, no, I think it was an airburst weapon, right? Because there
Yeah.
wasn't a huge crater impact and buildings weren't destroyed, but there was a huge explosion, way bigger than the kind of rockets that Hamas has.
Mhm.
And the rocket that blew up, didn't go in the same trajectory anyway.
Mhm.
And so it did end up killing a bunch of people. And that was like, did it or didn't it? How do you know? Like they claim that 500 people were killed, and then it was 150, and then it was 5, and then so much of it is you don't know. But
It's best not to believe anything.
yeah, from either side, but Israel is the one that like our people are going to just take hook, line, and sinker, right? And anytime they say anything, well, that's just the truth, right? And so like when I responded to it on
Mhm.
Twitter, it's Ben Shapiro just being a mouthpiece for the IDF, and it's like I don't think
Yeah.
we should just buy whatever they're saying. They're bombing this place, and they're going to be casualties of civilians, and even the bombing of the church. It's like, well, there was a Hamas target nearby, and we told people to get out of there, and it's like, well, what are they supposed to do? Where are they supposed to go? I don't know. It's awful. And so, I mean, speaking of the whole conflict, I don't mean to say not interested in the ins and outs of it, but so much of it is we just don't know. We can't know.
I also think it's important to keep talking about it because I actually do think there's something happening here.
In the U.S., you mean, or
no, just
or
the
in the
entire
conflict
conflict in general, but our role in it,
Yeah.
our reputation on the world scene, I think is at stake. But this is part of the experience of decline as well,
Mhm.
is our inability to bluff anymore, our inability to be
Yeah.
someone that seems threatening to other
Mhm.
countries that want to de-dollarize or de-Americanize.
Mhm.
I think things are transforming right now, and I think America, this is sort of the not the birthing pains, but the sort of the death pains of an empire. I think
Yeah.
that's what we're witnessing, and I think this is going to be long term. I think we're going to be talking about this for months, and I think it
Mhm.
could very easily escalate if the wrong hand is played over the next couple months.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting. It'll also be interesting to see what
Yeah.
this looks like as we come into the 2024 elections as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think the last point on that is like domestically, both in the United States and in Europe, especially in European countries. Like you saw the big protest in London from yesterday or today, and that has become an issue too because the Israel and Palestine conflict really I view it as like this intra leftist civil war that's occurring. It's a leftist position. And this is a spicy take, but it's late at night. I can make a few. But like supporting Israel is a leftist position, right? It's a far left position to support Hamas, right? And so there's a fight between the two.
Right. You're for sure. It's like the old progressive left is the Israel position, and the new like third world left is the Hamas position.
Yeah,
for sure.
that's how I view it, right? And just like the GOP is a leftist party, it's just the furthest right of the options, and so I mean you see this everywhere. Like even in my state, you drive in the Twin Cities, and there are like pro Hamas demonstrations all over the place. I saw one in like a wealthy Twin Cities suburb last week. And then everywhere else, there are these billboards from JewBelong.org about fighting anti-Semitism, and then some of them are quite vulgar. I won't get into what they say, but like sexually lewd stuff, and it's like, what is going on here? And you see, it's like Minnesota is this battleground of
the two lefts,
of the two lefts that exist in America, and you see this on all the universities as well, especially the big Ivy League ones. And it's interesting, like you probably saw the tweet from like this Jewish advocacy guy in Israel, or rather in the UK, where he's commenting on the big march in the UK in support of Palestine, and basically saying, oh well, Jewish people can't live here anymore, things like that. And then like you scroll back and you like search his tweets, and he calls people that oppose immigration, basically racist. And it's like,
well,
well,
that was Ben Freeman. I responded to his tweet, and I was like, Camp of the Saints is when the third world is actively replacing native British Londoners, and all we can talk about is whether some other non-British group feels threatened.
Yeah. Now you're allowed to talk about mass migration, right? Just like the New York Post is like being critical of George Soros and saying he's funding all of these pro-Hamas groups. It's like, we're allowed to criticize George Soros now. We're not going to be called anti-Semitic if we point to the things that he's doing. That's interesting. It's like only when like Israel is threatened, can we say maybe importing millions of third world people wasn't the best idea. Now we can say it. Now we're allowed to. Right now we can pursue this position. We can't say it because like we don't want our countries to be destroyed. Right? You're not allowed to say that. Right? You can't do that. Right? No, because you're a horrible, evil racist like Enoch Powell. Right? Or Pat Buchanan. Right. That's how they view you. But now that Israel's threatened,
man, we should. we're out of time today, but
Yeah, we're running out of time. Yeah.
We should replay an Enoch Powell. Have you ever seen some of his live? Have you ever watched his
Oh,
live
like the
debates?
Rivers of Blood speech,
Well,
or yeah,
that's the speech, but his
when he
live
goes on the
debates,
late shows, and
he's like the smartest guy I've ever heard.
Yeah, I think I saw the one that was like
brilliant.
the Dick Cavett show, and
Right.
he's on there, and he's incredibly articulate and
incredible.
bright.
Yeah.
And you listen to it, and he's not like some crazy person, right? He's this Oxford educated upper crust British man. And everything he said is exactly what happened to the UK and is happening to America.
Yeah.
And it's like, and now you see it, like now you see these things, and it's and it's the same. I mean, it's the same as BLM. Right? It's the same people that are supporting it, right? For the same reasons, right? They hate the West, right? They want to destroy the West, and they see Israel and the West as aligned. And of course, because they are, and we can debate that. I mean, it's so the whole issue is interesting because it's like, I don't want to support Israel. I'm not going to support Israel. No, I never have. Right. At least since I became an adult. Right. And so it's weird because you want to attack the far left, but then everyone thinks you're supporting Israel doing it. And it's like, well, no, I want to say that Israel's like, I'm not supporting them either, And so when you're on the right, you're in a weird situation where anything you say, someone's going to think you're supporting this side or that side, right? If I criticize Israel and I say, hey, they maybe shouldn't have bombed a hospital, right? Whoa, you're on the side of Hamas. It's like, no, I'm not. You're the same side as Ilhan Omar and BLM. It's like, no, I'm not. I'm against both sides. Right? Yeah. I'm against both. Like the United States should not be involved in this. Like this doesn't benefit us at all, right? Yeah. If you read, I have it here. I'm sure you have on your shelf somewhere a copy of this book by Mearsheimer. Yeah. Right. The Israel lobby. Right. And you can read the whole thing, and it talks about how it is this one-sided.
Isn't there a Gottfried endorsement on that one?
There might be
on the back. I can't remember.
It's one of the endorsements. Paul is in there, I think.
Anyways, yeah.
I could go through it. Yeah, but people should read it because it illustrates the entire concept of Americans. It doesn't benefit Americans in the slightest. Right? It doesn't at all. I mean, in most alliances, there's some geopolitical benefit. Like you can even make the case, like someone in the comments is making the case, like here's how supporting Ukraine is beneficial to America and the geopolitical strategy and so forth. I don't agree with it, but you can at least make that case. But with Israel, you cannot. Right? You can't say, and this is what the neocons would always do. Well, we want democracy in the Middle East, and we want a liberal society in the Middle East to stabilize the region. And it's like, it's done nothing but stabilize it. It's destabilized it, right? Yeah. You would have, and they think like, oh, these Arabs, all they would do is just kill and butcher each other all the time. That's all they've ever done. And it's like, no, like you had peace for 500 years when the Ottoman Empire ruled them, and there are all these different disparate Arab groups too. It's not like it was an easy peace, but there would be peace, right? And so the United States is forced to support them because a powerful, wealthy lobby pushes it. And so you see when like Ron DeSantis tweets, oh, I love Israel so much. He's after the donor money, right? Yeah. And Trump too, right? When Trump, wears the hat and touches the wall, like he's after the donor money.
For sure.
Right? Like you have to have that. When the new Speaker of the House, we haven't even talked about that. We're running out of time, right? We're out of time. When he this very first act is, all right, let's give $100 billion to Ukraine and Israel. It's like, it's not a coincidence.
Tom Woods always used to say, like, it doesn't matter who you vote for, you end up with John McCain. It's like the same. Yeah. It doesn't matter what happens. You get shuffled and reshuffled, and you end up with John McCain.
Every single time.
Every single time.
Yeah, you get John McCain.
So that's
all we got for today. You got any stuff coming out in the next week?
I have my first episode starting back up with Chronicles on Friday, and then
is that with Paul?
Yeah, that's with Paul, and then find me at Contra Mundum.
All right, same here. I have a few articles that I've been working on. I got a little bit of stuff done during the week, other than recording with Joel. So hopefully those will come out this week, and you can find those on news.gab.com. Otherwise, stay dangerous, dangerous. I can't speak. It's so late. Stay dangerous, and we will see you next time.
All right. See you next time.